Hello, Stuart Jardine here with our sixth ultra-progressive Bible chat. The biblical writings are full of lists of which Middle East blokes from our narrow ethnic group begat which other blokes. Women, as I say, don't usually get a mention unless there's a special bloke to give birth to or there's a sex crime to be involved in. And we may ask ourselves why a capital G God of the entire cosmos and beyond would need the entire cosmos and beyond to know the names of these blokes from one tiny corner of all creation. But don't worry, I'm just going to skim the lists of Bible blokes or skip them altogether. Not because there's stuff in there that I don't want you to think about, but because they're part of the reason very few people actually read the biblical writings and just leave it up to people who make their living from the biblical writings to serve up what they think you should know. The first verse of Genesis 5 tells us that this is the book of the generations of Adam, in the day that the Elohim created humans. In the likeness of the Elohim made he him, male and female created he them, and blessed them, and called their name Adam in the day when they were created. This is suspicious. We're now back with the first creation myth and the Elohim creating the Adam family as mini-gods. What happened to the mud man and the red woman and the talking serpent and the lamb cutlets and such? It looks like there was some dodgy cutting and pasting going on with the scrolls. If we go back a ways, we find that the last verses of the first creation myth have been snuck over into Genesis 2 to make it look like we're dealing with a continuously flowing literal reality and not two distinct, contradictory, highly allegorical, didactic theatre scripts that the priestly playwrights didn't take literally themselves. The end of the first creation flows perfectly into the list of begetting blokes in Genesis 5. And we have 3 chapters of cut and paste clues that there was a Yahwist reformation. But it was still the fault of you distractingly sexy women leading us away from God with your sexiness. And it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. Sons of God who weren't Jesus, breeding with human females, ticked Yahweh right off. And Yahweh said, "My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, yet his day shall be 120 years. We used to be immortal, and then that woman Eve brought sin into the world, and our life expectancy dropped to just below 1,000 years, and now, because the sons of God who weren't Jesus found human females irresistibly sexy, our lifespan was reduced to a miserable 120. Who we have in this originally pre-Yahwist folklore are the sons of the old Canaanite Elohim, mini-gods, just like the Jesus character from later folklore. In many ancient and not-so-ancient cultures, male and female deities would supposedly breed with humans from so-called royal families and produce so-called god kings. This is never shown to be anything other than fantasy propaganda put about to keep the everyday people awed and under control and continuing to pay. Beliefs surrounding the Jesus character are a continuation of this notion. Allegedly, the Holy Ghost of some suspiciously unnamed Middle East god impregnated the Blessed Virgin Mary character with the Jesus fetus in some biologically unexplained magical manner. In ancient cultures, this simply involved humans playing a game of dress-up, or undress-up really. A high-ranking male would pretend to be the Holy Ghost of a god and have the usual sort of natural intercourse with a female human, perhaps in a public ceremony, in a temple, or a lowly cattle shed. And voila! The next son of the local god was magically conceived. This game of pretend was given the fancy doing religion term hieros gamos, or sacred marriage. We need special doing religion terms when we are doing religion. Other Jewish sects in Jesus' day did not believe that their patron deity made baby god kings with their female virgins. I propose that the Jewish sect that Jesus belonged to is the image of the gods Adam family who were thrown off the throne and evicted from the temple by the Yahwist Reformation, and tales like Eve and the talking serpent and the astonishingly early Iron Age that were stitched into the scrolls later are allegories of the Reformation. If we leave out the stitched-in wrathful Yahweh part of this Sons of the Elohim tale, it becomes standard, positive, inspirational, nationalist propaganda. The sons of the Elohim made babies with the daughters of men, and these babies grew up to become the mighty men of old, who were the legendary men of renown, who may have battled the giant Nephilim, or maybe they were the Nephilim themselves. It's another one of those things we've been left to sort out for ourselves, even though we do apparently get direct help to find misplaced car keys. What we do know for certain is that our Jewish folklore tells us that the Jewish King David had renowned mighty men in his legendary retinue, and King David himself may or may not have killed the giant Goliath in what may or may not be an allegory of a religious debate that has been woven into existing folklore about the ethnic group's legendary mighty men and their giant killing god king. What we also know for certain is that Jesus' promotional literature, through two contradictory and unconfirmed genealogies, claims that Jesus was a direct descendant of King David. If Jesus was supposedly sired by a suspiciously unnamed Middle East god on a human virgin, it's only a couple of dots that need to be joined to suggest that King David was sired by one of the Elohim, and we're about to read a whole bunch of libelous propaganda written into the existing texts by the Yahwist reformers to delegitimize the David royal family that they deposed. Jesus' ambition was political. He and his father and grandfathers were praying for armies of angels to come with fire and hail mixed with blood to overthrow the Greeks and then the Hasmoneans and then the Romans and the Herods and put them back on the throne where they claimed they belonged. The business about Jesus being a human sacrifice for the remission of sin is just spin doctoring, put on Jesus' political failure. The notion of Jesus as a God-man human sacrifice, and the eating of human flesh and the drinking of human blood, even if you're only pretending, is another very serious reason behind the Yahwist Reformation. Back in our current myth, we have it that the Elohim, or God with a capital G if you insist, saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. Every human under the dome of heaven, including those who had never even heard of the Elohim or Yahweh or Jesus, and who practiced the high moral values of far older religions like Hinduism or Zoroastrianism or Jainism, allegedly only ever thought of evil things continually, according to the sanctimonious, misanthropic, misogynist, homophobic bigots who wrote the Bible texts. Not only that, but we have it that Yahweh said, "I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast and the creeping thing and the fowls of the air, for it repenteth me that I have made them." And the Jewish Yahweh God regrets creating humans in the first place. It's very important to note right here that nowhere in the first 4 booklets of the biblical writings do the writers or rewriters or tweakers tell us that either the Elohim as a whole or the Yahweh member of the Elohim love any person or anything. Nowhere, nothing. Zip from the God of love. But the regretful, misanthropic, disdain-filled Canaanite/Jewish deities are about to commit their first delicious act of gross, indiscriminate genocide that Christian kiddies like me joyfully sang about in Sunday school. The Lord told Noah there's going to be a floody. There's nothing quite like the early normalizing of godly genocide and public crucifixion to keep impressionable young minds faithful unto death. I'll see you in video number 7 for worldwide genocide from the God of love. There's more detail in the Yahwist Reformation Hypothesis books. All the blessings until we meet again.